Hi there, and welcome to Real Life in Real Estate. I'm Mark Peebles, here to help you live your best life and achieve ultimate success. We've got a great show for you today. I'm flying solo again, and you're going to notice over the next few weeks, I am actually going to be flying solo. We do have some awesome guests on the books, but the reason for the next couple weeks you're going to see me solo is because I'm actually doing some traveling. I am going to be in Colorado for a conference, and then I'm going to South Dakota for a week and a half, and I am traveling all over the state of South Dakota. I'm going to be teaching. In fact, if you're listening to this from South Dakota, listen up, because I'm going to be teaching a new course that I have called Productivity and Purpose, which is basically the ultimate success framework. And so I'm teaching that for continuing education in South Dakota, actually a 6-hour class on the 22nd. That one's going to be in Aberdeen, South Dakota. The second half of that class is going to be make a compelling buyer presentation in light of the NAR settlement. Then I'm going to be teaching on the 23rd, 24th, and 25th, that same buyer presentation class in Watertown, Brookings, and Huron, there in South Dakota. Then on the 29th, I'm going to be doing at one of the local NAVEX Realty offices in Rapid City, South Dakota. I'm going to be teaching a seller presentation class. That one is not continuing education. On the 30th in Spearfish, I'm teaching the buyer agency class back then in Rapid City to teach the Productivity and Purpose, basically Ultimate Success Framework course, on the 1st of October. I'm super excited about this trip. It's going to be an amazing trip. If you are in South Dakota, I would love to see you out at one of these classes. I'd love to get the opportunity to meet our audience out there. So I know we've got the listeners out there. Hopefully I get to meet you in person. So today on the show, we are going to talk about something that is very near and dear to my heart, and that is marketing listings. And more than that, it's really about what do you talk about in terms of marketing in your listing presentation. Now, I keep mine fairly simple and fairly straightforward when it comes to my listing presentation. And the core of my presentation revolves around the 4 P's of listing marketing and the 4 P's of marketing in general, which if you go back to college and you take a marketing class, back when I was in school, we learned about these 4 P's of marketing, which are product, placement, promotion, and price. Those are the core 4 P's of marketing. Now, I know in modern marketing, they've added to those P's. I keep it simple. All right, so in terms of marketing, what most agents do are the 3 P's of marketing. They put it in the MLS, put a sign in the yard, and pray that it sells, right? Or they may do a 4th P, put a post on Facebook, okay? But we want to use the 4 P's of marketing to our advantage to get our listing sold. Now, I needed to do this one today as a setup because next week I am going to teach you how to reduce a price, how to ask for a price reduction. There's an art to it, and I'm going to talk through my process for asking for a price reduction. And I've done this very well through my career, but what I've realized as an owner of a company and just observing in the marketplace, there are so many agents out there that have never had to ask for a price reduction because they came in a time where they could list a property and no matter what they did, it was going to sell. And we're just not in that market anymore. And so if you don't get the price right the first time around, then you have to go back and you have to make price adjustments. And so in terms of doing that, there's an art to asking a client for a price reduction. But we have to start with the 4 P's of marketing so we understand the importance of price. So let's talk about it. The 4 P's again: product, placement, promotion, price. When I talk to my client or my potential client in a listing appointment with my presentation in front of me, I am talking about the product first. Now, Mr. or Mrs. Seller, this home is going to be going from being a home to a house. Now, my dad taught me, my dad's an old school agent. He's been in the business for 55 years, incredibly successful career, and he does listen to podcasts. So shout out to my dad, Mike Peebles. He's one of the greatest. So when it comes to a home or a house, we sell buyers homes. They want to buy their home. But for a seller, we are selling their house. We need to depersonalize it. We need to separate them from that. And really, what is happening is their house goes from being their home to now a product that we are going to put out on the market, and it is our goal to sell the product, okay? So what I like to tell them is the very first thing we're going to do is I'm going to tour through the house, and we are going to talk about the things that we need to do to get your product ready to go to market. We're in a market right now, and I'll tell you this. Just last night, before coming and recording this podcast, I showed 5 houses in one of the hottest markets in my area, okay? I'm showing to a long-time past client of mine, wonderful client, and in looking at those houses, these are houses that 3 or 4 years ago, had they gone on the market, it would have been multiple offer, right? We're not in that market right now, and I think we're seeing that actually across the country. And so now you actually have to prepare the product for sale. And what I saw in the houses we were in last night is a lot of products that were not ready to go to market, that did not look show ready, that were not showpieces, that were not had any wow factor. You know, you go into a house sometimes and yeah, they've got some updates here and there, but you walk in, there's no wow factor. There's nothing in it that makes it feel like, wow, this could be my home. And so we're in a market now where we have to work on the product. So Mr. and Mrs. Seller, I'm going to walk through every room, and we're going to talk about how to make that room show well. We want to capture someone's attention from the time they pull up outside. We want them to start to fall in love till the time they walk through out the back door to look in the backyard and all the way back out to the front. We want there to be wow factor, and we want someone to continually fall in love. So what I'm going to do today, as we walk through, there's 5 main things that we're going to focus on. Number 1, we're going to focus on decluttering, okay? So everyone has stuff. Even I have stuff in my house. In fact, here's a line that I often use because they're like, oh, just please ignore. We haven't totally cleaned up. I say, listen, don't worry. It is okay. I have 3 kids that as they've grown up, we've just gotten more and more clutter in our house, and I can probably out-clutter you any day of the week. And I'm just the agent. So sometimes I'm going to state the obvious on cluttering or decluttering or thinning things out, but I want to state that so that you know the important things to take care of before we go on the market. So just know I can out-clutter you any day of the week, but these are the things we're going to work on to help a buyer come in and be able to see this as their home. So number 1, we're going to declutter. Second thing we're going to do is focus on the landscape. We want the front of the home to look beautiful when they pull up. In other words, we've put down fresh black mulch. Black mulch. Don't go buy red mulch or brown mulch. You want dark mulch that really creates a product when they pull up. We want those flower beds to pop, okay? We want nice clean edges on our walkways and our driveway. We want to power wash, okay? Power washing goes a long way. My son owns a power washing company, and it's amazing to me every time he posts one of his before and after photos or before and after videos that he does. I'm always like, man, that looks so much better. We don't realize how dirty our driveways are, but it makes a huge difference when you're going to sell. We want to get all of that cleaned up. We want to clean up, any issues on the front of the house. In terms of like if a shutter's falling off, or we need to have any repairs done on the front of the house, or it needs some fresh paint outside, we want to take care of those things because we want that curb appeal to truly sparkle when someone pulls up. So we're going to declutter. We're going to work on our curb appeal, our landscape. We're going to make that look sharp. And then the next three things we are going to look at is paint, flooring, and small repairs. So as we walk through the house, I might say, hey, listen, this carpet is looking very tired, and I would highly recommend that we go ahead and get this carpet replaced, right? And here's the thing that you need to know. They are asking you for your advice. So sometimes you're afraid to offend the seller, and sometimes you might have a seller that is like, oh no, our carpet is just fine. And or they might say this. This is a very common objection that we get. That is, well, I would rather just give an allowance for it, or I would rather, just leave it like it is and let the buyer do it. The problem with doing these things, any of these, declutter, curb appeal, paint, flooring, small repairs, the 5 most valuable things you can do to get a house ready to sell that you get the biggest return on for the lowest amount of money. These 5 things, the reason we do them is to take away the objection up front. And I always tell the seller this. We want this product to be neutral so that when they come in, they're not going, I hate red or I hate yellow. Those are 2 of the most offensive colors. Did you know that? We want, a creamy white right now, or we're going back to some of the beiges. I actually have a contact that I use at Sherwin-Williams. He's a past client of mine, got a great relationship with him, and I'll go to him and I'll be like, hey, this is the house. What are the most popular colors right now? What's the most popular palette to use? I've got a really dark room that I need to lighten up, but I need a popular palette color. And then we'll get a few of those different colors that we can use, and we'll take those in and we'll find the right color for that house. I even recommend you might hire, I've got a stager that does color consults specifically to help pick the right color. But the thing is, and this is the objection we get. We get the objection, well, I don't want to put money into painting. Someone's just going to come in and change it. The problem with that objection and not handling it right and not taking care of it now is that buyers come in and they can't see past the red wall or the blue wall or the nicks and scratches on the wall or the color of the carpet. They can't see past those things, and that's why we neutralize it. We want someone to come in and even though it's going to be a bland color, we want them to begin to envision what it's going to look like as their home. So we're going to go through these things to get the product ready. Now, what I do and what I explain to my clients is that I have been professionally trained in staging. If you've never taken a staging course, I highly recommend this. What I did years ago with my wife, she was an agent at the time, we went to an all-day continuing education course specifically about staging a home. There was actually a certification, a light certification that we could get out of that in terms of, putting some extra initials, or an acronym after our name, whatever, about staging. I never took it, but I was professionally trained through this staging course. And I tell my clients that if you've never taken a staging course, there's a lot of great online resources, and that's one of the big things I highly encourage you to do. It ups your real estate game, and it's going to help you say, I think we need to move this here. It's going to show you how to draw the eye to the right place in the room, and you need to have a good understanding of those things, okay? So when I'm going through the product, we're going to do these. We're going to focus on these 5 things, okay? So small repairs, like the dog chewed the woodwork. You've lived with it for 7 years now like that, but we need to get that fixed. Or maybe there's a small leak, or maybe some trim is coming off, or on the outside of the house, that shutter is hanging. We need to get those small repairs made because selling is psychological, right? As buyers are walking through a house, they're nitpicking everything. They are seeing things closer than you see them as a seller that lives in the house. So our goal is to get that buyer to go, wow, this house has been really well taken care of. Here's one thing I always recommend. In the final deep clean, that's the final thing that we always recommend to get the product ready. Again, we're talking about the product right now. When they go down into the basement, or if you don't have basement, somewhere you have a water heater, somewhere you have a furnace, right? And if they open a closet and the water heater and the furnace are filthy, or they're down in the basement and the water heater and that furnace are filthy, they begin to judge. It's as if there's dust on the baseboards, or there's, something is dirty in the house. Buyers judge that. It might have been a well taken care of house. It just wasn't cleaned well before we went on the market. But in a buyer's mind, it changes their perspective. Okay? That water heater, that furnace, I tell my clients, shine those puppies up, right? We want them to look sparkly clean, not all dusty and dingy. And I tell 100% of sellers to do that because guess what? Nobody cleans their furnace or their water heater, but it's one of the questions always asked by buyers. So we want to get a psychological advantage on everything we do. Preparing the product is very important, okay? So we're going to get the product ready. We're going to have it looking super sharp right before we go on the market. And then what are we going to do? We are going to tell the story of the home and put together a wonderful tour of the home. All right. So the story, I go through with my sellers what they loved about that product when they bought it. What have they loved about living here? I want to be able to convey a story to my buyers. What is the story of this home? And so I'm going to help in the mind of the buyer convey that story. And guess what? Now we have AI. So you can kind of take the talking points of that story with that seller, and now you can actually put it into AI, and AI will write a beautiful story for you that can go into your listing description. So we're going to do the story and the tour. We want the pictures and the video to tell the story of the home as well. So listen, if you're not using professional photos, I don't care where you are in the country, you need to be using a professional photographer. And I highly recommend a professional video tour as well. Statistically speaking, houses sell faster and for more money when they have professional photos and a video tour. And it might be a unique property where you need to have aerial photos done. If that's the case, we're going to use that to tell the story of that unique property. I've got a farm that I listed recently. Well, you can't tell the story of how amazing that farm is with just pictures from the road. You have to get up above it to be able to see it. Okay, so we're going to do the story, we're going to tour, and we're going to show a buyer how amazing this home is and make it look fabulous. But before we can do that, you've got to get everything right with the product, Mr. and Mrs. Seller. I had a client closed, moved into their house, and 2 weeks after they moved in, they called me one morning and said, "Mark, we have a problem. Our water heater is leaking." I was like, uh-oh, we better get someone out for that. But wait a minute. I ordered an Advantage home warranty on your house. You actually have a home warranty. That's easy. So I provide the phone number. I provide all of the information for the home warranty. They make the call, and within 24 hours, they have a new water heater without all of the stress and worry. That's the value of an Advantage home warranty. I recommend it to all of my clients, and I recommend the Elite plan because then they're not paying every time they call someone for a service call. So Advantage home warranty, best home warranty in the business. Learn more for yourself or your clients at AdvantageHW.com. That's AdvantageHW.com. Okay, so product placement. Placement in real estate is the location. We can't change the location of the home. In fact, what are the three most important things when buying a piece of real estate? Location, location, location. My dad told me that my whole life, right? And here's the thing. Even if it's not a great location, okay, maybe it's located on the busiest corner in town. What is great about that corner? What is great about living there? Mr. and Mrs. Seller, I'm here today because I want to sell what is amazing about this location. Why did you guys choose this location? What do you love about living here? What are some of the things in this area that I wouldn't know from living outside of the area that I should know about living in this neighborhood or, in this city? I want to know what's important to the sellers, right? You might not know that right around the corner, and we have this in a few of our communities here, there are a couple of little community centers inside of neighborhoods that you would have no idea they were there unless you were part of that community, right? So that might be a big selling point, something that you can use in terms of that location to draw your buyers in and make it part of the story. All right, so product, placement, that's the location of the real estate, and we're going to sell that location. The third thing is promotion. This is the one, Mr. and Mrs. Seller, that sellers are always like, hey, Mr. Realtor, what are you going to do for me? And so you want to lay out your promotion. Now, there's a few things that you want to talk about in terms of your promotion. First off, you want to make sure that they know that the very first and most important thing you're going to do is you're going to list the property right away on the MLS, the multiple listing service. I have, over the years, always told my clients that we are going to go onto the MLS. And then through that MLS system, we are going to allow their listing to syndicate to all of the major portals, all of the agent websites in town, all of the other company websites in town, and basically anywhere that anyone is searching for real estate, they are going to find your home. Okay, that is very important. Now, years ago, I used to have a page that I would show, and it would show their home, and then it would show like 300 websites that they distribute to. Well, I will tell them that your home will be available and will be found on literally thousands of websites. Now, you might be saying, okay, well, prove that, Mark. Well, I can tell you, if I list it in, I work in the Dayton, Cincinnati markets in Ohio, okay? So wherever you're listening from, those are the markets I work in. If I list it in the Dayton, Cincinnati markets, let's just say I do Dayton, well, I'm going to get to like 3,500 agent websites just from listing it in Dayton. So that's thousands of websites. If it's kind of in a crossover market where I would list it in both markets, I'm going to be on, upwards of 9,000 or 10,000 agent websites. So anywhere that any buyer is searching for real estate, I am going to have my listing available. Now, the other thing is I'm going to make sure that you're available on the major portals. There are 5 major portals out there. We have Zillow, which is the number one. Then it's Realtor.com. And then you have Homes.com, Redfin, and Trulia. Those are the 5 big ones out there. And I want you to know that we're going to ensure that you are marketed on all of these portals. Now, the other thing that you might consider doing, you can go on homes.com. You can pay for a listing boost. Maybe that's part of your promotion plan. Your social media. What is your social media promotion plan? Well, the day that I list your home, I'm going to put out a video, which I'm known to do this. I will take a quick video of me walking in front of the house, talking about it. I will do a quick hit video, or what I've started doing, instead of doing full video tours, I actually have my photographer do some quick hit video that I can edit together myself. Sometimes I'll pay him to edit those together, but then I post that directly to my social media, and then I encourage friends to share that listing. So what's your social media plan? And I will tell you, try to use video on social media as much as possible. You're not going to get the response from just posting a picture of a house, or even say you post the Zillow listing or you post the Homes.com listing on your feed. The problem with that, with the social media providers, or with Instagram, Facebook, they don't like that you're sending them to an outside site. So that tends to be your problem with that. So try to create video that you can post directly on your social media feed, and then share that out. I usually will start by putting it on my personal page, but I tag my business page in there. So I don't know, the real estate police might come after me for that, but that's what I have always done in terms of marketing my listings. And then the other thing that you want to have is a time and action marketing calendar. So you want to show them that here is what I'm going to do the first week that your listing is on the market. We're going to put it on the market. We're going to make sure it gets syndicated. We're going to put out a social media post, and then we're going to do some paid advertising around an open house that we're going to hold the first weekend. Okay? Now, I still believe in open houses. In the mind of the seller, I think an open house goes a long way because sellers want to see action, and an open house is an action. But here's the other thing that the open house does, especially in a market like we've seen where it's starting to soften. An open house can drive traffic through, and that traffic can get us, hopefully, offers. We're there to sell the house, and hopefully we can generate offers from that. But the other thing is we can get feedback. So we can actually hear from the buying public what they like, what they don't like. And next week, I'm going to talk about how to use that feedback in asking for a price reduction. Okay. So this is our strategy in terms of promotion. My goal, Mr. and Mrs. Seller, is that anywhere anyone is looking at real estate, they are going to find your home. Okay. Now, other things that you can say that you do in promotion. I keep an email list of agents. I actually, from time to time, will email out a listing to all of the agents that are in my email list to make them aware of it. I will pick up the phone and I'll actually call agents that are in the reverse prospecting. So if we go online, I don't know what it's called in your market. In our market, all of the buyers that are set up in portals out there, okay, so their agent has gone into the MLS, set them up with a search portal with their criteria. In our market, and both of my markets, we can pull on the back end who the agents are who have that search criteria or have a buyer in that search criteria that received the listing. We can actually pick up the phone and call those agents directly. I'll tell you recently, I've got an agent in my market that I really respect. He's built a really good team. I'll just shout him out, Jeff Probst. He's a really good guy and built a great team, does great marketing. I've gotten 2 calls on a difficult to sell listing because I have clients that show up in the search portals that would be looking at that kind of a house, right? And it's a harder to sell house. I have a ton of respect for agents that call me and are making me aware of listings that they have. Now, I don't always have time to call them back if they leave me a message or whatever, but here's the deal. It's great marketing. It is a great way to market, build relationships with the agent community, and show your seller that you are working to get their home sold. And there's a ton of other promotion things I could go into, but for the sake of time, I'm not. Maybe in the future, we'll go through some of the other things that we're going to do in terms of promotion. But for now, we've talked about the product. We've talked about the placement. We have talked about the promotion. Now, Mr. and Mrs. Seller, this is the one that most sellers don't like to talk about, and that is the price. But I will tell you, how you price your home is critical, because if we price it right, we will get you the most money in the shortest amount of time. But if we don't price it right and it hangs out on the market, in the end, you will take less money for your home. So let me tell you, Mr. and Mrs. Seller, I actually have a pricing model. So what's my pricing model, you ask? Well, right now, my pricing model is a 10-10 pricing model. If we are on the market for 10 days, or we have had 10 showings, including attendees to an open house, and no offers, then we talk about making a price adjustment. So before we do that, Mr. and Mrs. Seller, I'm going to do a lot of research. I'm going to bring feedback to you. I'm going to bring data to you, and we're going to talk through it. And I will always make a recommendation if I believe we need to make a price reduction to get better activity or generate offers. You see, here's the thing. Years ago, back, not talking to Mr. and Mrs. Seller, but years ago when I got into the business, 2006, in fact, when this comes out, I will have just hit 19 years in the business on this episode. So it was September 6th of 2006, I passed my test. But that said, when it comes to price, National Association of Realtors put out a study that was done back in 2006 that showed if a home had been on the market for 21 days or it had 10 showings, that the buying public was rejecting the price. And so back when I started in the business, I was like, well, maybe that should be my pricing model. And that's exactly what we did. We did 21-10. Now, the funny thing is, back then, I would actually say to clients, I would say, now the chances of us getting to 10 showings before 21 days is highly unlikely. We just weren't in that market back then. And then we went into the crash, which really slowed down the market. But that's how I would explain it back then. Now, today, where the market is moving a little bit faster, I do a 10-10. In fact, sometimes in certain markets within my own market, we'll have a really hot market, I'll do a 7-10. I will tell them it's a 7-10 pricing model, 7 days on the market, or 10 showings. We talk about making a price reduction, which makes sense. If I list on a Thursday or Friday, then I'm reducing it before we go into that next weekend to have the leverage of the weekend. So with all of that to say, having a pricing model is critical. Guess what? Your competition is not going in with a pricing model. Now, you need to decide based on the movement in your market when you would want to talk about making that adjustment. I would recommend like a 7-10, 10-10, 14-10. Maybe you're in a really slow market right now and a 21-10 does work. Here's what I will tell you. You don't want to hang out on a price reduction. You want to be making your price reductions as quickly as possible. Now, here's the thing. I'm going to talk about how to ask for a price reduction in the next episode, but it's very important that you know that price is a very important piece of real estate marketing, okay? You can have the best product in the world. It can be beautiful. But if the price is too high, you won't generate offers, especially in the softened market that we're seeing right now across the country. Things are soft. Now, if interest rates go back down to 5.5%, or they were to somehow by some miracle get to 5%, I think you could price a little bit more aggressively. You could price on the high side of the market, and you would still have the ability to get those higher prices, right? That's what we saw in 2020 and 2021. The unicorn years of real estate is you could price it anywhere and you were still going to get multiple offers. The market's not right like that right now. My recommendation is you don't even want to price in the ballpark. Your first price should be where you believe it will sell, okay? And if you don't hit the mark, I recommend making a change quickly. Again, I'm talking about price reductions in the next episode, so I don't want to steal all of my thunder, right? But here's the deal. When it comes to pricing, it's not just about pricing. You are positioning the house in the market to sell, okay? And so we need to, at this moment in the real estate market, look more at our competition, the active listings on the market, than the ones that are sold. The sold gives us a frame of reference. The sold and pendings give us a frame of reference for our price range, but we need to see who we are competing against, and we need to price aggressively against our competition. All right, so very, very important. As you are thinking through your CMAs right now, focus more on what is active than what is sold and pending, okay? All right, all of that to say, those are the 4 P's of marketing. So we're going to work on putting our best foot forward with a beautiful product. We're going to sell that location like mad. What is great about living in this neighborhood, in this community, this area, this city? What is great about living here? What drew you to this location? We're going to use that along with the story that we put together about the product to sell the product in the location, right? Then we're going to talk about how we promote the property. This is our promotion, and we are going to price the property right. Product placement, promotion, price. That is the 4 P's of marketing. You need to know those 4 P's. And what are you going to do? I'm interested in the comments today. I want to know, when it comes to the product, what are some of the things that you're recommending nowadays in your market on their product? How are you selling the location? And what are you doing to promote your listings right now? Let's get some conversation going around this. Put your comments in, if you're on YouTube, okay, put your comments in. I want to know what your thoughts are on that. Let's talk about it, and let's share ideas here. This is a great place for sharing our ideas. So go ahead. Throw that in the comments. Oh, by the way, while you're at it, if you haven't subscribed to the YouTube channel, subscribe. We would love to have you as a subscriber. Hit that bell so that you'll find out every week when our new videos come out. And we're releasing 2 videos every week. Monday Mindsets every Monday. And then every Friday, you're going to get this kind of content or content with our amazing guests in the Real Life and Real Estate podcast or Real Life and Real Estate show, which is also a podcast. Wherever you're getting your podcast, you can listen along with us. So driving along in the car, pull up the podcast and listen through it. All right, so that is this week. Product placement, promotion, price. Next week, we get into pricing, and I'll see you soon. Have a great week.